Do I have what it takes to escape the room? Do I have what it takes to mix a perfect Long Island iced tea, topped with cola and a lemon wedge to garnish? What about what it takes to compose, record, and release a solo instrumental metal album from the comfort of my own home? Well, I'm not so sure, but if there's one man to teach me how, it's today's guest. So get comfy, settle down, and let's learn some things. Hello!
Woo!
Woo! We out here. We're doing it. We got Uppbeat on the show. Everybody welcome. Be Subtle. Opti Prime. The man called Reinout, whose cam is frozen on the stream, but it's good now. I think we're good.
Nah, this is just me being very still.
Yeah? Okay, beautiful. How's it going, man?
Shit. But,
Yeah?
you know, we're getting there.
Living that Bo Burnham life.
Yeah, I guess. We're making things, but we're going down the drain. But it's a good drain. It's a fun drain. How are you,
At the
host?
bottom of that drain, it lies hope, success.
Yeah.
I'm good, though.
Exploration. Good.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Sort of back into the swing of things of streaming again. I streamed all this week, had fun with it. Played some new games, played some old games, but yeah, we had a good time. So this episode, as the intro might have given away, is a little bit of a multifaceted one because although marketing it everywhere as the Escape Rooms episode, we know you can't say too much about escape rooms. There's things you can't share. There's secrets like a magician that you can't talk about, right?
Yep. Basically, I mean, yeah, I can tell you a lot, but also very little, because eventually I'll have to sort of give some examples, and I just can't.
Not even if you were to like relate them to non-escape room examples. I mean,
yeah, I'll try. You know,
Yeah.
we'll get there, but there might be ways where I'm like, yeah, I have this one example, but it might ruin your fun. So,
well, some of the things I brushed over in the intro. So we've got mixology, right?
Yep.
Got a little bit of drinks mixing and stuff like that in there.
Yep.
I know you best for the musical side of things, and I'm
Yep.
being a musician myself. There's not a huge amount for me to learn there, but I've still got some questions. You know, we're not completely the same, cut from the same cloth. And you're Dutch as well, so we might brush over some Dutch things as well because Rotterdam, especially, is a history with a lot of a city with a lot of history. So, or a little bit of both, I guess. I mean, in some ways, there's history with a lot of city built over it. So I know you've lived in Rotterdam for time.
Pretty much my entire life.
Yeah. So yeah. Man of many hats, man of many talents, as you were saying. You said yourself jack of trades and master of none, but that's all. It is truly always better than a master of one. Okay, I feel like people gloss over that part of the saying, but like jack of trades, master of none, always better than a master of one is how the saying goes. And I feel like it's been a little twisted in recent years. I feel like people get salty and say, "Oh well, jack of all trades, master of none," but like.
I used to just go with jack of all trades. I like to dabble in, and that works.
But
I feel like if you're not dumb, you know that speaks for itself. That therefore you might not be an expert, like the best expert at anything. I've had this discussion multiple times with people, especially as a musician. I play a lot of instruments, and I try to do them relatively well. And then there's a lot of my drummer friends, for example. Well, if you just focused on the drums, you'd be a better drummer. Yeah, sure, but I wouldn't be a guitarist, and that's fun too. So,
and you wouldn't be able to, track however many different instruments for things like
for
Be
myself.
Subtle. Right, exactly. So, I feel like you're a drummer first and foremost, right?
Yeah. So I play a couple of instruments. Probably the first instrument that I sat behind was a piano. My grandparents had a piano, and the most beautiful thing in the world right now is that I have that same piano standing right here next to me. You can see it, but
Oh, that is
it's
beautiful.
standing right next to me. Very happy about that. A lot of emotional value. That's where my musicianship started. A little when I was a little older, my parents bought a piano, and they always claim like, yeah, my mom used to have piano lessons and she wanted to play piano again, but I was behind that thing all the time, and they knew. They tried to force me into taking piano lessons. I never had piano lessons. I learned it myself. Um, and then later I was like, yo, I want to learn to play drums. Drums, cool, cool stuff, cool beans. And that's the only instrument that I know how to play that I actually took long lessons in from some very, very good drummers. So that's the only instrument that I feel comfortable in saying I know that one well. I'm very good
Yeah,
at it, even
classically
though it's been a
trained to some degree.
yeah. I tried to get into music school and conservatoire and stuff like that. Didn't get in, sadly. They were always very positive, but like 6 to 8 people a year get in.
Oh
Uh,
God.
that's not a lot,
Yeah.
and therefore not me, which is fine. I went between lessons a lot, so I also taught myself a lot in that regard, and I always had teachers that really tried to train me in things that I wanted to learn and may have needed to learn, but my technical proficiency may have lacked in that, and that is something that they looked for in those schools.
Yeah, they guess. I
So
guess
yeah,
they want. I mean, when you're getting into or trying to get into a school that takes in that few people, like you got to be
yeah,
the
you got to
cream
be
of the
good at
crop, right?
everything.
Like
Exactly, and
paradiddles and other drum
they
things.
they need to be able to teach you stuff, and if they first need to tell you how to do the stuff that they're trying to teach you, learn sheet reading, stuff like that. If they need to teach you that, there's no reason.
Yeah,
That's just not going to work, and therefore, yeah, fuck off.
I took drum lessons. I think also. I mean, well, when I was in, I guess high school, that was I was taking drum lessons as well, and I did loads to read some form of drum sheet music, but I don't think it's proper drum sheet music. It was
It's
like,
very easy.
yeah, but man, when I was learning the drums, I loved Metallica, and as if you know music, you know Lars is not the best drummer. So I
Oh.
remember being saying to my drum teacher like, "Oh, I want to learn this song on drums," and he was like, "Why?" But yeah, I ended up transitioning to guitar pretty much completely, and I did guitar lessons. But man, the piano lessons I actually I didn't know you were a piano first and foremost, or like at least
Well,
on this
yeah,
on the
that's
start.
that's where I started,
We
and
saw
I still love playing it. But
a couple of years ago you got the Rolly Seaboard. Is that thing still kicking
fuck yeah,
around? Is it
yeah, it's
featuring on
it's
the?
right here.
Is it featuring on
It's
the next
gonna
album?
be. Yeah, it's gonna be. It's definitely gonna be. I'm not sure in how much you'll notice that it's the seaboard with all the weird slidey things, but there's a lot more synth and MIDI and that kind of stuff going
Yeah,
on. Something that I used to be afraid of or just didn't really want to do as a rock and metal musician. There's this sort of um, there's this
a
thing
stigma.
about synths. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a stigma against synths because that's not metal. Doesn't fucking matter.
yeah.
But for layers and stuff, it's a lot of fun. And with the seaboard, you can go ham with the layers as well.
So
Definitely intensify things.
for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah.
Be Subtle is a solo instrumental metal project that I produce. So if you want to check that out, it's on Spotify. It's on. Wait, did you? Is it on Tidal? Did you get it on Tidal?
It is.
It's on.
It's on
It's
all the
everywhere.
streaming
It's everywhere.
platforms. I'm a title guy myself now. It's everywhere. It's also on Bandcamp. If you really want to support me, go to
There you go.
Bandcamp.
So yeah, there's a new album on the way, but it's been on the way for a hot minute now. Cause
I was okay, so this is a thing that's been bothering me for a while because it's taking way too long. I
yeah,
was supposed to release the first half of that album because it was going to be in two halves. First half of that album was supposed to be last year, exactly a
yeah,
year
pretty much a
ago.
year ago. Because I remember you saying like June time. I
Yeah,
would be
so a year and a
working
month.
on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, being a solo artist in that regard, it comes with a lot of challenges. You have to pretty much record from your home, and life is life, so that's not always doable.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what's your recording setup like when you when you come to say, let's say you're tracking some bass?
Yeah.
What's the
Very
setup
easy.
looking like?
Very easy. I have the Scarlett Focusrite second generation 2i4 for the nerds. I plug my bass straight into that.
Direct
Uh,
injection.
yeah, and that goes into Studio One. I use Neural DSP for my amp plugins, my amp sims, and that's basically it.
Just frickin' plug the bass in. Neural DSP
Yeah,
to process it. Lay some
yeah.
of that beautiful.
Uh,
Okay, so I guess drums is the more interesting challenge because do you program drums, right?
I program drums. Yeah. So I wanted to do this whole solo project thing from the comfort of my own home. And when we started, this was a monthly release thing. You know, back
Yeah.
in 2019, I started with releasing a song pretty much every month. That was the whole goal, basically, of the music. I didn't care if people liked it, I didn't care what came out. If you listen to that first 10 or 11 songs from the first album, as I've started to call it. They're very different. All the songs on there are very different. And even into that second cycle, they got wildly different as well because it's just every month I was like, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Uh, I just started playing and started writing and got something done. And that made for some fun music, but definitely weird music as well. So, yeah.
And also we were both kind of finding our feet as well because I
Yeah.
mean it got like dramatically better as I think
Yes.
in the first
The
like sort of
first
year and a half or
The
whatever.
very first song, Democracy, I think from the top of my head, it's the very first song. And relative to now, it sounds fucking shit.
I'm
And
hoping
that's
when
and
we get the new stuff down, it'll be gleaming.
even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember getting that first mix back from you, and I was like, "Holy fuck, this is the best thing I've ever heard."
Right.
Uh, I
Yeah.
w- I was amazed at how good something as easily recorded, and you mix that in not too much time. And I was just amazed at how great it sounds, and it's still very listenable. It's definitely not
It's
bad. But
palatable.
if you then take stuff from the second cycle, the second album, and especially the later work on that, even from the start, even from the get go, the first single of year two, Names, that's still one of the songs that I always push to people, like when they're asking, "Oh, show me a song. What's the music you make?" And it's not my favorite song, but it's relatively easy to listen to, and it
Yeah.
sounds pretty fucking good. Uh, it's
It's not too
it's
not
a
too
little
challenging.
not too challenging. I was recording a reel the other day. I've been doing a lot of reels on Instagram, and I was recording that opening riff, which is in 11/8.
Of course.
And yeah, but it doesn't sound like that. That's my fun with progressive music, making it sound easier than it might be, or the other way around. It doesn't sound like, oh, this man really tried to make something in 11/8. No, it's just a cool riff. I
So,
think
okay.
I'm
Um
already getting everywhere.
well, yeah, no, I mean, shit. I'm happy to sit here and just listen to you talk about it because I mean, I was involved in it. It was awesome. It's been awesome to sort of be a part of that
Yeah,
process because I don't get a lot of opportunity to sort of flex those muscles. So, I'm just as excited for the next project as anyone else. But
it'll be a lot
I
of
guess
fun.
I guess to move on from music because, like I said, we're both music men. I know what the deal is. All right. So let's talk about escape rooms. Okay, so
Mm,
you work, manage, host an escape room. Okay.
yes.
Now I've never been in one,
No.
so just could you give me like a POV of someone going into an escape room for the
Yeah.
first time? What do you see? What are you
Okay.
greeted
So
with?
obviously, all escape rooms are fairly different. My very first tip, if you'd ever try to book an escape room, is look at a lot of reviews, not too many, and pick something that's not like the highest rated, but somewhere, well rated, and something that's mildly expensive, I might say. I'll be honest, our escape rooms are 139 euros per room.
For a full group?
Yeah, doesn't matter if the minimum amount of players is three, maximum is six.
Yes, that's not
So
so
it
bad,
doesn't.
right? It's like 20 bucks
No,
a
it's
person if
not too
you.
bad, but
Yeah.
still, it's a fair amount of money. So you expect something, but there's also a lot of escape rooms that uh, go for like 50 or 75, and
And you get what you
don't
pay for.
expect too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
you. I hope you do get what you pay for. Yeah, they're not great. The first escape room I did was cheap, and it was very bad. Um, so our escape room is situated directly underneath a church. So that's pretty cool
Yeah,
already.
that is
You
cool.
see this church building, and you're like, "Is this is it really?" And you have to go down some stairs, and you really go into the basements of this church. So there you're greeted by us, the hosts. It's very dark. You're directly in the basements, crawling space, all that. So it's very dark. But it's also our very nice little lounge. We got this sort of speakeasy setup going on with a bar, with some Chesterfield couches, stuff like that, dark but cozy. So you sit down, you get a cup of coffee on the house, and we tell a story. We think it's very important. Our escape rooms, by the way, they're called Dr. Watson's. That's the brand. And Dr. Watson, obviously known from the Sherlock Holmes novels, movies, whatever, where you've heard of that, stories. And Dr. Watson is the storyteller in that regard. So for us, the ambiance and the story is very important, and that's what we try to focus on. So we tell a whole story about how this church came to be, why we can be underneath this church, whole wild stuff. And then we start to slowly get into the story of the actual escape room. We rarely call it an escape room because you're going to do some research. There's some stuff that we discovered underneath this church, and we're still not, we haven't gotten to the bottom of that.
Mm.
So we're trying to find out, and the players are supposed to find out what's going on in that church. So there's this whole story, and people really get sucked into it. They don't really, or our goal is that they don't know what is true and what isn't. Let them go into that fantasy world, I guess. So we take them with us. There's a couple of things that you have to leave behind: your phone, your watch, stuff like that. Um, and then you go into the room. We tell you a little bit more about what you can and can't do, and we let you in. Now, you enter a very dark room, uh, and your goal is not, or at our place, not necessarily to escape, which usually is the case in an escape room.
Yeah.
That's why we don't call it an escape room. We don't want you to escape. We want you to find something.
Right.
So basically, what you have to do is you get into the room, you just look around. What the hell is going on here? There will be some hints either on the wall, clues written, or some paper somewhere. And then you have to just go ahead and start puzzling. Find the right objects, place them in the right orders, solve all kinds of things, all the puzzles you've ever seen in video games. Um, Try and solve that. Sometimes another door will open. It's very point and click, basically. There's
Yeah.
always something that you need to do uh, to find a way to move on to either the next puzzle or the next room or unlock something, stuff
Get
like
to
that.
the classic point and click situation of trying every
Yeah.
single object you found with every other single object you found
Yeah.
until you get a match, and then trying that with everything else. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the I guess first off, the setting is awesome. I can't remember. I think I talked on the pilot podcast. I helped put together a gig in the undercroft of a church, which
Mm,
was super cool. And yeah,
yeah,
that is a really cool environment just in general, especially when it's an old church, right?
yeah.
The
It's
best
it's yeah.
Yeah, the
It's
best sort of
one
thing
of
you
the
really
very
see with that
few
nowadays is
monuments.
like Weatherspoons. You see a lot of old churches turn into Weatherspoons in the UK, but nothing
Okay.
so. Yeah, I remember specifically one. I don't remember where it was. I think it was called Man in the Moon, and it was an old church. It was just a Weatherspoons now. It looked pretty cool, but like, damn, like that's a historic building, and
Yeah.
now it's selling historically affordable drinks. But yeah, so Undercroft of an old church, cozy lounge bar area. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, given that setting and the ambiance and everything, is it scary or is it just like mysterious?
It's mysterious, and therefore some people find it scary. There are multiple escape rooms that classify themselves as horror
Yeah,
escape rooms, um, and those might have actual actors in that room. If you're not too sure about if you like stuff like that, always ask if they have an actor in the room. They will tell you, because that stuff can fuck you up. If you're a
yeah,
little scared and suddenly someone just straight up appears and runs at you, you will shit your pants.
yeah. Like,
I've never been into one, but to me and to us as this business, we really feel like the ambiance and the puzzles are important, and you will not be puzzling if you have the feeling that there's someone
someone's about to jump
straight.
out. Like, if
Yeah.
I solve this
y-
next puzzle, somebody's about to come out with a freaking prop
You will
chainsaw.
just stand there and be afraid, do nothing.
Yeah, I think I would hate that experience. I mean, it's good to know that you can just ask, yo, is there a dude in there? Because
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I mean,
There's a
when
lot
you
of people
do
that,
like a haunted house experience or something, right? Like, you're
yeah,
going into it knowing there's just going to be a bunch of dudes in suits jumping out at me. Whereas you
yeah,
don't want to get in the context of an escape room where it's supposed to be like immersive and puzzle
yeah,
solving, and you're kind of play. I mean, everyone's sort of playing a role in that way because it's like one of those like murder mystery dinner
yeah,
party type
sure.
things where you show
Yeah,
up and like you are going to take on the character of some sort of investigator that you're going to go do these puzzles. Yeah, to know that at any point some dude in makeup is about to fuck your whole day up, that
yeah,
sucks. Like,
yeah.
I
It can
wouldn't be
also
able to
be
do that.
fun if if that's your thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
people love that kind of experience. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't even handle horror games, so I wouldn't be able to do
yeah,
that shit in real life because, especially as someone who like, I would love to really get immersed in that experience. It would just be fucking terrifying, man.
yeah.
Oy.
And there's also a reason why I've never done that, because my suspension of disbelief is fairly broken. I always feel like, yeah, what's gonna happen? They can't really hurt you.
Hmm.
So
Unless you
what's the
sign a
big
waiver or
idea?
some shit going in, that'd be nutty.
Yeah, there's they sometimes have some rules, and they will explain you beforehand that if he catches you, you're out.
Right.
Uh, but that's all that can happen, and then it's still shit. You don't want to get caught and have your whole escape room experience
Yeah,
ruined,
because you're
because
on a
then you're out.
timer, right?
Yeah,
And even
usually
if
you
you
are. Yeah,
don't solve it in that time, at least you could feel like, okay, I paid X amount of money for this time. Whereas if you get caught partway through, you're just
yeah.
out, right?
You're just out, and that's
That's
it. And
literally
that's
money down the
that's
drain.
enough to make sure that you stay out of the hands of the enemy.
Yeah.
But that's I don't get scared very quickly, because I always like, yeah, I'm actually safe here.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of anything. This won't really happen.
A little bit
Uh,
skeptical.
yeah, and I'm sorry about that. I wish it wasn't so. But that just it won't work for me. And I'd love to try one. But I can say it now. It doesn't work for me. But I'm not super sure, because I've never done one. And sure, I'll try and stay out of his hands, get away, because it's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't think I'll be very scared or anything.
Makes you
But
wonder, like, how many escape room actors get fucking punched in the
oh, it
face.
happens.
Yeah,
I've heard
exactly.
multiple stories
Because you see that shit in haunted
about
houses all the time. Like,
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
imagine it
I
being any
I
different.
act I had a dude once. come in, and he before we started, he was like, "Are there actors in the room? Because if there are, my fight, flight, or flee reaction is fight, and I can't control it. I will fucking punch you." Uh, So yeah, if that's the case, I can go in. And there's multiple people that have that just they get afraid and they just instantly start wailing at people. You don't want to have that. So, also be aware of what kind of person you are in situations like that.
When you're doing the
Uh,
whole introduction spiel, are you undertaking the role of Watson, or is it like a recording or?
no, it is I tell the stories.
Mm.
We tell the stories.
In Dutch or
And
English?
both. I mean, usually in Dutch, but if there's English people or not Dutch people, then
You can't
uh,
call him Watson if he's Dutch, surely. You gotta
I
call him
mean, we're
Dr. Vander Watson.
I'm not Dr. Watson's. I just work for Dr.
Oh, okay,
Watson's.
okay, okay, okay. That makes
you know,
sense.
I'm one of his employees, proteges, whatever.
Understudy.
So, yeah. He just inspires us to tell stories. That's what
Why
we do.
Watson instead of Holmes? That's the real question.
Well, yeah, because again, it's about the stories, not necessarily about the research, because
Hmm.
Holmes would solve this easily.
Right.
Uh, but we have more than just the escape rooms, and we've always felt like every little thing about what we do, say the cocktails and stuff, there needs to be a story there, and we need to be able to tell you about all of this, and therefore the story is more important than the actual solving.
Okay, I mean, the whole experience of like, oh, Dr. Watson, like understudies, that sort of thing. So I assume, I guess as is there a mystery being solved as the people playing? Like, are they kind of in
Yeah.
the place of solving the mystery? Okay, is it
Yes.
is it a murder mystery?
It's not.
Damn. I guess it's some supernatural shit if it's like Sherlock Holmes, like the Hound of the Baskervilles or
No, it's
whatever.
also not very supernatural. No. Both the stories that we have right now are very rooted into the history of the church that we're under.
Oh, okay.
One of them is about the architect of the church, and the other one is about the first priest of the church.
Damn. I was
Yeah.
expecting like a vamp. Now I
No,
think about
that
it, I don't know any Sherlock Holmes stories besides the Hound of the Baskervilles, and I don't even really think I know what happens in that either.
I have a very very big book with all the stories. I've never read it.
I think
I've
supernatural
seen the
shit happens in Sherlock
movies, but
Holmes, right?
I know some of the stuff, and I've seen the movies and I've seen the shows, but it's not like I'm a huge fan. I just work there.
Yeah, you're not a an expert on Holmes or anything like that.
No, definitely not. Some people come in like, "Oh, I've seen all the movies," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's not
It's
really
it's
what the
gonna be
stories
wasted
were
here.
about." And
Yeah.
yeah, that's something too, like information. Some people get sort of scared of doing an escape room because they think they need to know all kinds of things,
Hmm.
but all the information that you need should be provided in the escape room.
I believe I saw an example of an escape room where you needed to know how to play chess. And like someone went into the room and didn't know how to play chess, so they couldn't do it. Like you needed to
Yeah,
know how the pieces moved or something to solve some particular
yeah,
puzzle. But like that's pretty basic. I mean,
yeah. I've had uh, this puzzle we don't do anymore, so it doesn't matter. But there was this part where you had to have playing cards in the right order.
right.
Now the numbers are fairly obvious, but the jack, the
Well,
queen, and
just one
the
set, or
king.
does that include the
One said
suits? Because I
no.
don't know. I don't know if the suits have a particular order.
Really?
Yeah, I would guess it's like I would guess that it was be black red, but I wouldn't know.
No, no, no. It's not the suits. So no, that doesn't matter. No, it's just and I mean the numbers easy, obviously,
Yeah,
but then the jack and the queen and the king and possibly the ace, they didn't know the order of those, and I was like, why? Yeah, I don't gamble. It's against my religion. You don't need to gamble
Right.
to know where the
Is it
it's
but
it
is it ace high? Is it ace low? I think
that's something you that's
s-
some information that we would give
yeah, something
because
in
that's something
I
that
feel
you
like
don't
something
know.
in the UK probably hundreds of
That
years
depends on
ago
the game.
would be like, the queen would probably be worth more when there was a queen in power, but that's obviously not the case anymore. It's the kings at the
Yeah.
top. But yeah, gambling's against my religion. I don't know. Yeah, I don't buy that.
No, that was just that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah,
But see, some people go really deep into things and they like, I need to know this. No, you don't have to have specific knowledge of biology or science or whatever to solve these things.
cryptography.
Uh, yeah, there's some puzzles that have to do with some Latin shit in our room, and some people just like, dude, I don't know Latin. Well, that's why this whole translation thing is
Right,
over
right, right.
here. They just
So
and it happens, and people just straight up give up. They just, I don't know this. I'm not gonna try.
at what
But
point do you intervene in that case? If someone's like, I don't know, I'm not gonna try, do you just come over the thing? You're like, oh, you don't need to know that.
yeah, that really changes. It really depends on the group.
Yeah,
Some escape rooms have set hints, and there will be a button they press, and sometimes there's text coming up or whatever. You might get a lighting cue or stuff like that. But we don't have set hints, so I can just go either over the intercom or we have walkie-talkies as well, and I can just always give a hint according to the situation. I see everything and I hear everything, so I sort of know what they're trying to do and why it's not working. But Siri, shut the fuck up. Sorry. Um, so I listen to them, and sometimes people, I in the start of the room, I will always tell them that they won't get hints.
well, okay,
Uh, People expect to get hints. Sometimes, if they played more escape rooms, they will expect hints at certain situations. And well, for example, in one of the rooms, you'll have to find the elixir of life,
right.
and it's been lost forever, and they're going in, and I'm hoping that they can find it. So I let them in, and I go, okay, so you have this walkie-talkie here. You don't have to use it to ask for hints. If I would have found the fucking water of life, I wouldn't need you here. I'd be out somewhere partying. So yeah,
Right.
find out for yourself. People still go in, and there's definitely groups that just go in, stand still, look around, look at the camera they found, and they go, I don't know, can you help me, can you help me? And that's the most horrible thing there is. It's like they sometimes people actually stop puzzling, stop playing, stop trying to do anything. They just start waving at the camera, help me. No, dude, give it a try. I've literally given people the hint, try your best. And
Did it
they get
work?
so upset. No, they
Oh,
get so upset. But other than that, it definitely depends on the group. Some people try fairly hard, and I sometimes let them just try, even though I know that it's wrong what they're trying, but at least they're trying something.
yeah.
Sometimes people really get lost and they've tried a couple of different things, they just don't know. And then I'll give them another hint. My whole goal is not necessarily to have them complete the whole room, but to at least see most or all of the cool puzzles.
Some
Uh,
sense of pride and accomplishment or
yeah,
whatever.
it's not fun if you're stuck for 20 minutes on one puzzle. No
Yeah.
one's having fun. My whole job as a dungeon master is to make sure that they're having fun. So yeah, they get in there, they try their best, and it's just not working. And then I'll let them know, yo, this is where you have to look, and I'll
Are
try
there
to be a
points
little cryptic.
are there points that like you're expecting people to really struggle, or do different groups tend to struggle on different
Yeah.
things?
There's definitely a couple of puzzles that are just more difficult than others. That we just know that this puzzle's gonna take you at least 20 minutes. Um,
Is it
but
a matter of like
definitely
just fucking tearing everything apart until you find answers? Like how?
no.
No.
That happens as well. Some people really think they're in a James Bond movie or something. and they just try to look underneath the most weird ass places. There's a couple of books standing there, and they're gonna look through all the books, even though there's one piece of paper right there on the desk that tells you what you need to do. You don't have to look for all the wires. You don't have to climb on shit. You don't have to be Bruce Willis finding clues. It's not somewhere hidden in someone's butthole. It's it's all, if you just read the clues, you will get there. It will tell you what you need. It will give you all the information. You don't have to. And some people really start tearing at pieces of furniture. They just start taking chairs apart because they think something might be in there. What on God's green earth gave you the idea that something might be in this fucking chair?
Is it fun cleaning up after those people?
I usually tell them, like, you don't need that. Stop doing that.
Please stop pulling the chair apart.
Yeah, you don't need that. Nope.
Because
Nope, you're
I
wrong.
think I don't know. I've seen some YouTubers who've done escape rooms and stuff, and I don't think they aim to give away too much. It's usually like a promotional thing, but they'll get like there'll be shelves and drawers, and you're going through all of this shit to find keys, and then a key for a lock, and then like that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And it really does seem like in some cases you just have to like kind of investigate every nook and cranny, rather than I guess what is just a laid out sequence of clues for puzzles.
Really depends on the escape room,
Yeah.
obviously. And there are people that really think that you have to look at every small little detail. Usually you don't. It really depends on the quality of the room as well, how much sense the whole room makes. We try to give you a hint so you can solve something, and in that thing that you just solved, you'll find the information you need to solve the next puzzle.
So,
Um,
are you like sat in front of an array of like TV screens and shit with cameras?
yes, they're all old CTR TVs,
Yeah.
and so no,
Wait, because
it's one screen with
don't you
cameras.
also you look over multiple rooms at once?
No,
No.
no, that it does still happen at cheaper escape rooms, but that should never be the case.
Okay.
It's both dangerous because you just can't see everything, and less fun because I'm not focused on any particular group at that moment. I might miss what they're doing. And it's not like I'm just constantly hyper focused on this whole group. I'll be honest, like one escape room takes an hour, and most of the time I have like either my headset on so I can hear everything they're doing, and I'm just browsing through my phone. Uh, it's very laid
Pretty
back,
sweet deal.
and yeah, it is. And it really depends on the group. And sometimes I just notice that the group might destroy half the room, and then I have to pay a little bit more attention. But usually they're fairly straightforward. I know what they're doing. I've been working there for about 4 years now, so I've seen and I've heard almost everything. I know what might go wrong. Um, so yeah, I can just take a look every once in a while, but that's all.
Do you get good at reading people's vibe when they come
Yeah,
in? Like, you
absolutely.
see a group
Yeah,
come in and immediately you're like, okay, these guys are gonna need some fucking help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I instantly know.
You
I
have so
rarely
there's a
get
bar in the place.
yeah.
Do people tackle the escape room drunk? Is that allowed?
No,
Okay.
no. People do not get inside the escape room. That's in our terms of service as well.
Right.
If we see that you're drunk or intoxicated or anything, we have all the right to tell you just get out. It's all very fragile stuff. It's all very expensive, and we don't need you to destroy the place. You won't be having fun, but I can tell you that, but you won't believe me. You won't be having fun, and you will be destroying our room, and that will cost us a lot of money, and you will have to pay for that. So we're just not gonna do that.
So you said people get like complimentary coffee beforehand.
Yeah.
What do you get if you win? Do you get drinks?
No. Honor.
Honor? I swear to God, if that's the well, if you can't say the prize, but
Well, yeah. There's rarely a true prize in escape rooms other than just you did it.
not even like a T-shirt that says I did the
No.
escape room at this church and all I got was this shitty
No.
T-shirt.
No. Sometimes there will be some places. I've gotten a pack of cards once. But for the whole group, here's one pack of cards, and he said it was because we were a fun group and he had some extras. I don't know if that's true.
Wait,
Uh,
he said you guys are a fun group, so here's one pack of cards for the five of
yeah,
you or whatever. That's fucking
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. You don't, yeah.
You'd rather
You
no
just,
gift at that point. You just don't.
I mean, I said I don't need it. I have 7 packs of cards.
Well,
I
how many of you
really
were
don't.
there?
I think we were 4.
Perfect. You take a
Uh,
suit each.
yeah, we could.
Yeah.
I don't want a quarter of a stock of cards. No, thanks. No, I have plenty. No,
All
you
right.
you get nothing.
So you don't get free drinks, but you mentioned earlier that the drinks are at least on theme. Everything has to have some sort of
Yeah,
story.
most of. Yeah,
Yeah.
we try to. I mean, we serve cocktails and we have the very classic cocktails, and we try to tell our stories there as well. Um, Cocktails and storytelling go hand in hand
Yeah.
anyway. All the classic have their weird stories about how they were made, who made them, why they were made, and it gets really wild. For example, um, there every
Notebooks out, guys.
every part of your bar, every stuff, every little tool has a name, and 9 out of 10 times it's a weird name. There's this thing that you use to squeeze limes or lemons, sometimes even oranges, depending on how big they are. Usually, it started with limes, and it's called a Mexican elbow. And it
That rings a
it
bell to me for
sounds,
some reason.
yeah, it sounds vague as shit. It sounds half racist as well. Um, and and then no one really knows how or why it's called that. But then the stories start to emerge.
Well, I mean, does it
Uh,
look like an elbow? Like, does it look like the crook of an
I
arm in
mean,
some
it's
way?
two pieces that get together.
And you're
So
squeezing
yeah,
limes in it. There you go.
yeah. But just to be like, oh yeah, it's a lime, so it's Mexican.
Yeah, right.
A little
You're
bit.
right.
But there's two stories in there. One of them is that in Mexico they drink a lot of stuff with limes, and at one point someone didn't really have something to squeeze it with, so he did it in his arm,
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
and that's how it got designed, and now it's called a Mexican elbow. But also, if you squeeze out a lime, what will remain inside the Mexican elbow sort of looks like a sombrero. Uh, Yeah,
That's a little
uh,
more vague.
yeah, that's
I
uh,
don't
that's a
believe
little
that.
weird.
I thought you were gonna say
There's
it looks like an
also
elbow, and I was like, well,
no,
that's the whole
no.
thing.
There's also stuff like the what's it called? The Moscow Mule,
Yeah,
which is
ginger ale
ginger
and
beer.
something.
Yeah, ginger ale or beer with vodka. And then the stories start with stuff like, yeah, they were they were transporting donkeys or whatever, and they had alcohol in there, and the stories get really wild, and
Well,
then
the
suddenly they
Moscow
start
part comes from the
drinking.
vodka, clearly, right? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah,
that goes without
yeah.
saying.
There's also like
Ginger beer
right
part, who
now
knows?
there's the Mexican mule as well, and then that's the same thing but with tequila
Yeah.
instead of vodka
Did you
and
know
stuff like that.
about? Do you serve Moscow mules?
Yeah, we do.
Do you serve them in the copper mug?
Yeah.
So apparently, like, that can be bad for you because acidity in the drink causes the
Yeah.
copper like to leach into the
Yeah.
drink or something. But
Yeah.
there's like the special properties of copper where even though I think the drink cools down, so no, sorry, the drink warms up actually quicker, but it feels colder in the copper mug because of how the copper conducts heat away from your like mouth. So the copper makes the experience feel colder because of the nature of the actual metal, even though it actually makes the drink warmer. There's a little fun fact
Okay,
for you.
that's yeah. The thing is it a fun fact or is it just is it true?
Is it true? Is it true? Yeah, it's true that it makes the drink warm quicker, but still feel cooler. That's just
Okay.
because of the nature of
Yeah.
the copper, the metallic properties, because it's such an effective conductor that I think Now I might have to fact check this because
Yeah,
thankfully
that's what I'm fucking asking.
thankfully it's Duke learns things, not Duke teaches things. But it conducts heat and it basically will conduct heat into the drink better. Like asterisk, that doesn't sound like good science, but I think that's how it works. So if you have two Moscow Mules and you measure them side by side, the one in the copper mug will get warmer quicker, right?
Okay.
But because the copper also conducts heat away from your mouth when you drink it, that sensation makes it feel colder.
Okay.
It's a whole weird,
It's
whole thing.
science, dude.
Yeah, it's science, man.
It sounds like a cocktail story, like shit that
Listen,
we tell our guests.
I didn't hear, I heard it from Adam Ragusia, who's like a food man and a science man, and he does a lot of food science stuff, and so uh,
I
I'm
heard it from
pretty
my
sure that's the
uncle.
facts. I'm pretty sure that's the facts, but I'm also retelling it terribly, so you never know. But as far as I know,
This is
it's
how misinformation spreads.
but yeah, also acidity in the drink can leach
Yep.
copper into the drink, and then you basically don't drink tons of Moscow Mule because you'll probably be unwell.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, but there's vodka in there as well, so
Well,
and a
right,
lot
but you also you
and a
don't want
lot of
copper
sugar.
poisoning, you know.
No, I mean, no. And your cup has to have like a little handle as well
Yeah,
because your hand will fucking freeze to the thing. It
because
hurts.
the copper is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
effective at conducting heat. Anyway, what's your favorite?
Anyway,
Okay, what's your favorite cocktail? First off,
um, I think my favorite cocktail would be Sweet Manhattan, which is 50 milliliters of bourbon or rye, and then 20 milliliters of sweet vermouth. Little dash of Angostura bitters in there, in a stirring glass. Stir that boy around, um, and then garnish with a wedge or a little lime orange peel
mm.
zest, and that's nice.
Bourbon, vermouth, bitters,
Yeah, that
stirred.
and yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of alcohol, man.
It
I
is.
don't look I like
It
the
is.
more I
And
when I think cocktails, I think like a mixed drink. Like I'm thinking it's gonna be like a third liquor, two thirds mixer. But that's a
that's
strong
that's
drink.
a mixed drink indeed,
Yeah,
and
right.
that's not officially a cocktail.
Yeah.
A cocktail will be sweet, sour, and a spirit, and therefore a gin tonic is not a cocktail. Uh, Even
That
though
seems like a
some
hot
people
take.
might ask. I mean, it's true. So fucking fight me. Uh, yeah, it's a mixed drink. It's not a cocktail. It's the law. Yeah. There's a lot of good cocktails. There's a lot of shitty cocktails. I
Are there any
I drink I
because we
drink
talked
my
about the
whiskey
Moscow
neat.
Mule.
Yeah,
Are there any
that's
others
a
that
mixer.
demand a specific vessel? I guess they all have
I
their own
mean, yeah,
classification of vessel
all
because you've got
yeah.
the glass, the stem, what's it fucking martini type glass,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
But
very
the
big
Moscow
part
Mule
of.
is a very specific vessel, I guess is what I'm saying. So
I
not
mean,
just
yes and no, because I mean it's a copper cup, but the shape shouldn't really matter. Doesn't really matter, but you know how many copper drinking vessels would you find? But
is it the
every
only cocktail
cocktail
that demands a copper cup?
probably not,
Well,
but
yeah, I guess. But of
there's new
the
cocktails being
mainstream ones.
yeah. Um, every cocktail calls for a specific glass.
Yeah.
Uh, the glassware is very important for many reasons. Among others, there's the looks. It just looks better in certain glasses. There's your tiki drinks, which are stuff like the Mai Tai, which have to be served in a tiki glass. Um, it's not really a glass because it's ceramic, but you know, call it a glass. Um, it really matters in what kind of glass you pour it. For it, every cocktail obviously has its certain amounts of ingredients. And the fun thing is, if you make it correctly, you can just pour it in. You don't have to look twice. You don't have to be careful because it fits, because it was
Right.
made for that glass. And that really helps you in your bar when you're pouring out drinks fast. Some people really go slow. and then they finish their cocktail, but you can just wabam and it's done.
That I
Uh,
actually had never even considered that.
yeah,
They're made to measure to fit those specific glasses,
yeah,
so you don't even have to think about pouring too
absolutely,
much or too
and
little.
then it will always look good as well. Otherwise, you just have to fill it up more.
What's
Your cock,
your least favorite cocktail? What's the
oof,
bottom of the bottom of the barrel?
I don't know.
I have to say, just
There's
in theory, I have never had this in my life, and I never will. But it's the idea of the, like, extra dirty martini sounds fucking terrible, right? Where it's
I
like,
like a martini, and I like a dirty martini. That's okay, but extra
I hate
dirty,
olives. I hate olive juice. Like,
yeah.
that whole experience sounds miserable.
But there's so many cocktails that you can intentionally fuck up, just to make nightmares. There's no real use. There's a couple of cocktails that I wouldn't order. I don't really care for them. Um, but like a Cuba Libre, which is basically rum and coke. Don't really care for that. It's too sweet for me. I don't really like sweet cocktails. I don't like a porn star martini, for example. Yeah, I
What
guess
makes a porn
that's.
star martini a porn star martini?
Oh, that's a fun one. So porn star martini is vodka, vanilla vodka, preferably, but you can also just do vodka and vanilla liquor. Um, there's some passoa or other fruit-like drinkings in there. Um, and what am I forgetting? Some lime juice, some sugar, syrup. I always do a little bit of passion fruit stuff
That
in there.
sounds good to me. I like
Yeah,
sweet drinks, though, I guess.
it's very sweet, and there should be a foam layer on top. Some people make it with egg white to make that foam. You shouldn't have to if you shake it well, but a lot of bartenders just don't shake well enough. Um,
Now Shade's
and
being
it's yeah, I'm sorry. You can also put some pineapple juice in there for extra foaminess. You shouldn't have to. Um, and it gets garnished with half a passion fruit on top of it. And you should also get a shot glass of prosecco in there to counter the super sweetness. But what makes it the porn star martini is that you have to lick out that half passion fruit. That's right
right.
on top of your glass, and you gotta fucking lick it, lick out everything. And yeah, people don't know it, but that's what makes it the porn star martini. You really gotta dig in.
You ever set any drinks on fire?
No,
That's a
I've
shots
set
thing, right?
usually shots. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. It makes things more dangerous. What I what I have done for a cosmopolitan, which is a very classic cocktail that doesn't get made that super well every time, which is 30 mils of vodka, 30 mils of triple sec, which is orange liquor
Mm-hmm.
basically, uh, 30 mils of cranberry juice, and 10 mils of lime juice. Um, and what you should do is garnish it with a flamed orange zest. So if you take your orange zest and you squeeze it a little bit, the oils of that zest will fly out. So if you have a lighter close to that, you'll get this quick flame, and that smells amazing. And if you get that over your cocktail, that's what makes a good
That's the real
cosmopolitan.
shit. When you've
Yeah.
got that flamed orange
That's
zest.
yeah.
Now I want to set fire to some orange zest just to smell it, because that does that sounds
It,
really
it it
fucking
is a
good.
fairly easy party trick because people will always be surprised. You have to have hand oranges, not the uh, oranges for juicing for pressing, but the ones you can just eat because they have a thicker zest.
I feel like that's a
So
big
you
part
have
of the
to
experience as well, because I mean, when you drink, well, your nose is like 60 or 70% of flavor or whatever, and when you're
yeah,
lifting a drink to your mouth, you
exactly.
got that really
Yeah.
strong orange zest, and that's a big part of the experience.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. It's a lot of
So
fun to do when people get X-ray.
yeah, I'm that okay. what's this? What's the deal with drinks that are served with sparklers? Is this an important part of a cocktail, or is that just like a random party
I've
trick? Like,
never
are there
served.
cocktails that call for sparklers?
I've never seen one.
No,
I've never
umbrellas though.
umbrellas. Yeah. Okay. So there's this whole um. So one of the things that I was taught when taking my cocktail course was about TGI Fridays, which is weird for us to learn about, but it was one of the very first singles bars. This
Right.
smart fella had the idea of, we have a singles night. All the singles are welcome.
Mm.
Uh, you don't just go with your lover, you go there as a single. Uh, which is wild to think of right now, but it's so much fun. That was the whole idea. You'd go there
Because that seems like the
probably to
purpose
pick
of
someone.
bars and clubs and stuff
Yeah,
now
now
is
it does, but
right.
back in the day, it just simply wasn't.
Yeah, you'd meet your
And
significant other in church, and then
I
that's your
guess,
part.
yeah. But in there, they made all kinds of new party drinks, and it had to look as festive as could be. Same goes for tiki bars.
Hmm.
And they started bringing the whole Hawaiian spirit into cocktails, which is a lot of fun. It looks like a lot of fun. Beach parties and stuff. But yeah, then you get umbrellas and sparklers and whatever. Nothing really calls for it. But it looks fun, and that's half the experience. Yay, my cocktail looks fun.
With what's the really red syrup called? Shit.
There's multiple grenadine. It
Grenadine is what
might
I'm
be.
thinking of. Yeah, some bright red grenadine and
Yeah,
like sunrise type shit going on.
yeah,
Little
yeah, yeah.
umbrella in the top.
And they look better than that they taste. They taste fine, but yeah, the tequila sunrise, for example, it's not
I
that great.
I don't know how tequila took off. I really don't like tequila at all.
Good tequila is good stuff, but what we usually get is very shitty stuff.
I feel like you could say the
And
same about
also,
vodka though, right? Like, you know,
okay, but the fun thing about vodka is that it needs to be filtered more, and therefore it tastes more like water.
yeah,
High
the
quality
less
vodka,
flavor it has, the better the
yeah.
vodka, pretty much.
And I just I'm sorry, I like my drinks, but I don't need just liquid to get drunk. I, I
Yeah, I
want
suppose
taste.
so.
I once was at a airport where they got me some high-end vodka to taste, and I was like, "This just tastes like water." Yeah, great, right? Yeah, sure. I love water, but I,
It's like
yeah,
dehydrating water. It's like completely the
yeah.
opposite.
Just, I rather have some actual water.
So you mentioned before we got the podcast underway, you were saying you do gin tastings
Yeah,
and whiskey tastings,
yeah.
and I know you.
Sometimes
I
even
feel
rum
like
tastings as well.
you've been a little bit of a whiskey buff for some time.
Yeah, yeah.
So your favorite cocktail is a bourbon-based cocktail,
Yeah.
but there's no way your favorite whiskey is a bourbon. Surely that's sacrilege to the
No,
whiskey lovers
absolutely
out there.
not.
Yeah,
No, no, no. No. But I like bourbon, but I like bourbon mostly for cocktails.
I'm the same.
It's
I
just
really well, not cocktails, but mixed drinks. I go Jack Daniels and Coke every single time, right?
yeah.
Because it's
Uh,
simple and it
sure, it
tastes pretty
works.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've talked about this many a times during my whiskey tastings because we go past some bourbons as well. A lot of people grab Jack for reasons, mostly
familiarity.
marketing based reasons. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, and they're great at their marketing. It's one of the biggest brands in the entire world, but it's not that great.
their
And
barbecue
there's a
sauce is fucking good though.
sure, it's decent, but it's not Sweet Baby Ray's.
So, okay,
And
I love Sweet Baby Ray's. All right, I'm actually bereft of Sweet Baby Ray's right now because we can't get it in the UK. But man, that shit is so full of sugar. Holy
it
shit!
is, but it's barbecue sauce. But there's like the whole story about Jack Daniels is basically them saying we want to be different, and they made Tennessee whiskey, which doesn't mean much else than we make this shit in Tennessee.
Number
Uh,
7.
yeah, but there's also Jim Beam, which
Yeah,
is also Tennessee whiskey. You know, uh, and it's like here in the Netherlands, a bottle of Jim Beam would be about 17 or 18, possibly somewhere around 20 euros, whereas a bottle of Jack Daniels will be around 30. And especially if you're gonna mix that with your Coke, you ain't gonna notice a difference, boy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and there's the fun thing about bourbon, it's much cheaper than Scotch. It's so much more cheaper, and
Is
bourbon, especially the lower end bourbon, tastes somewhat similar. So if you're gonna mix it, get the cheapest one.
bourbon has roots in either Scotch or Irish whiskey, but I don't remember which.
So the story, this is a relatively long story, but it's a fun story, and I tell it all the time.
Okay.
Um, alcohol rules the world. We all know this. A lot of history was made because of alcohol. Um, so back in the day, when the USA basically started, there was a lot of land being sold for cheap because everyone was living at the east or the west coast, and they just said to everyone, "Okay, dude, you wanna get a piece of land? Pay me $3 or some shit, and you get a piece of land, really cheap." But there was one if and but. You need to grow corn. You get a large piece of land, but you need to grow corn. This is why still a lot of the USA Midwest stuff is still corn. It's easy to grow, feeds a lot of people. You had to grow corn.
Right.
So, sure, easy. Then they had too much corn,
I
which is obvious.
Side note, this seems like something the USA is really good at because they did the exact same thing with cheese after the war. They were
Yeah,
like, "Yo, here's a bunch
everyone
of
needs to.
subsidies to the milk industry," and then like decades later, they have caves full of cheese because they made too much
Yeah,
cheese.
exactly. So yeah, now they have so much fucking corn. But they did find out about whiskey. They started enjoying whiskey from either the Scottish or the Irish. They started enjoying that. And they started making it themselves. And eventually, government said, okay, so you can make official bourbon, but at least 51% of the grains that you're using must be corn. So 51% of all bourbons uh, you know, grains needs to be corn, and
Got
that
to get
makes
rid of
it a
some of that
lot.
corn.
Right. All right. So that makes it a lot sweeter. Also, one of their rules is it has to be made with or um, rested on new barrels. Whiskey gets aged in wooden barrels, and in America, they constantly said they need to be new barrels, haven't been used before, so we can have our people make barrels, all good stuff. Then the Scots laughed their ass off because eventually America had too much barrels because you can only use them once.
Oh my god.
And the Scots are still every bit of scotch has to be aged on a used barrel. You can't have a new barrel of wood to age your scotch in, so it has to be used. They
Used
laughed
in
their
any
ass off.
sense, like you could use the
Well,
barrel for
used
like, oh,
with no with some form of alcohol. So a lot of
so
sherry is used, a lot
right.
of bourbon, port, that kind of stuff.
So
But
once they
then,
distilled
yeah,
one thing in it, they were like, okay, now we can use it for the scotch. But up until that point,
exactly.
right.
Yeah. So the USA was like just having tons of barrels with nothing to do with it because they were already used, and the Scots were like, "Okay, this is fucking funny. You give them to us for
Yeah, we'll
free,
we'll take your
sure."
used barrels off your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
to
no, you
make
have some
better
problem.
whiskey, arguably.
Yeah. So that happened. Then the Prohibition era started. But apparently the Scots found out about the end of the Prohibition era that was about to end a lot earlier than the Irish did. So they already had their ships full of their whiskey standing by at the beaches of the USA. Like, yo, you gonna drink tomorrow again? Huh? Cool. Here's whiskey. And then the Scots just started ruling the entire world with their whiskey business, basically.
What's the deal with Japanese whiskey? Because that seems to be quite a like
Okay, yeah.
sought after thing.
So, um, there's this thing in, I think, a lot of Asian culture. I know for a fact that this has to do with both the Chinese and the Japanese, and I think there's more of the Eastern Asian culture where gifts are very important to be fairly expensive, and wine and whiskey and strong spirits, all kinds of drinks are gifted a lot, but it has to be very high quality. Um, Eventually, Japan was like, okay, whiskey gets drunk a lot, gifted a lot. We can start making that. So they start making it, but the rest of Japan was still like, okay, but this isn't as good. We don't really drink that much whiskey either. So if we'll get it, we'll import it from Scotland, possibly USA, wherever. So Japan started to export their whiskey uh, for very cheap. And then suddenly, all around the world, you could get very cheap Japanese whiskey. And it turned out to be pretty good. Uh, very decent, more than decent, pretty good. I have a very expensive bottle standing right behind me.
Right.
Uh, um, and it's good. It's very. I always say this to people. It's very Japanese, as in it almost tastes factory perfect. Uh, it lacks a little bit of soul. It lacks the fucking scrotum of the Scots. It just it's just very good, and therefore it lacks soul. So this got made a lot, and exported a lot. And then the Japanese found out, oh, our stuff's actually pretty good. And they started drinking all of it. And then suddenly there wasn't enough to export again. And if it got exported, it got super expensive. And then the name got even bigger because now these bottles are super expensive. Bottles that I bought, Japanese bottles that I bought for like 50 to 60 bucks back in the day, are now easily 150 if you can even get them here.
Damn.
And the big one I bought on the Tokyo airport, I bought for 60 euros, changed to 60 euros. Um, I came home and I tasted it, and it's great. A lot later, I was like, okay, let me check what's the worth of this whiskey now. And they said somewhere around 500 euros. So I got a
Did
little upset
Yeah, I was
that my
gonna
bottle
say,
was
were you
already
mad you opened
open.
it? Yeah.
A little, but I have my whiskey to drink.
Yeah, but now you can
Um,
flex and say, "Well, I've got this
yeah,
500 euro bottle, and I sip it on the
yeah.
daily
And
because I'm
now
a bowler."
the whiskey doesn't get made anymore. So now
Oh,
you won't be able to get a whiskey like that for under 1,000 euros. And I just
okay.
have it
That's
standing here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty. That's
Yeah.
upsetting.
And I don't like it. I still think that whiskey's made for drinking. Whiskey is one of the best ways to invest if you don't want to buy gold. You definitely don't want to buy crypto. Uh,
No, oh, not right now. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
If you have a time machine,
you
maybe.
gotta buy whiskey. Whiskey goes up in price constantly. There's still new bottles being made. There's still a lot of bottles being taken out of production, so the price just flies up. And if you fuck up and your whiskey isn't expensive as you thought, you still have a bottle of whiskey.
That's true. You can't get drunk on crypto.
No, I mean people get drunk on crypto, but that's a very different
Yeah,
take.
in a
Yeah,
figurative sense, but
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But this is just I can drink this.
So okay, so who's the king of whiskey in your opinion?
I don't know.
If you,
I really don't.
I mean, I'm not specific brands, but even if you had to pick, like, okay, Irish, Scotch, American, or
I
Japanese, or
I
even
like
anything else more
yeah,
obscure than that.
I like Scotch. Scotch is my jam. I think they make the best stuff. It's fairly heavy, aggressive, in your face. You really know you're drinking something that will kill you, and I
It,
like
it
that.
kind of, to me, like strong or like at least like very aggressive whiskey just tastes like kind of like cardboard that's on fire.
Yeah, there's a lot of different whiskey tastes. I think there's especially in Scotch, there's more tastes than in any other drink. That's my take on it.
You
There's a lot
like
of
per
very
individual whiskey, you think there's a lot of flavors, or that there's a lot of
no
variety
between yeah.
among?
There's a
Okay,
lot of variety between all bottles. The one I'm drinking right now, Ladijk 10. I don't know if I pronounce this correctly. I won't be able to. Whatever. It's a relatively smoky bottle, and it's weird because I've looked this up because I tasted it and I was like, this is burnt rubber. Uh, And then I started looking up tasting notes, and multiple of them said, yeah, there's definitely some tire smell or taste in here. And it's really weird. I like it, but it's also really weird. But also, I really like the fruity whiskeys. Glenfiddich 12 is one of my favorites, and it's just roasted apple and pears and moss and stuff like that. And there's this huge world between fried up cardboard and burnt rubber and apples and
yeah.
pears on the other side and everything in between. I really like my smoky whiskeys.
Do you think
I
people say with like eating spicy food, for example, there's
Yeah,
kind of a level of like
that's yeah,
masochistic enjoyment?
yeah,
You think that applies to
yeah,
any strong spirit, but whiskey
yeah.
especially in that sense? There's like
I think
this
so.
hurts me,
For
and it
me, yeah,
it adds
for
value
me it
somehow.
does. For me, it definitely does. There's a taste in alcohol. So the minimum amount of alcohol in whiskey by law has to be 40%,
Yeah,
which is a lot.
80
And you'll
proof to all the Americans out there.
and you'll feel it. But I have some bottles standing that are 65%. And you'll definitely notice. But sometimes you can also notice the lack of alcohol because they just dimmed it down a little bit.
Hmm.
And you're like, I like this, but something's missing. Just like spicy food. If you eat a curry and it's just not spicy enough, that's not great.
It
Could be
falls a
better.
little flat,
Yeah,
like to your
could be better.
expectation. Yeah,
Yeah. So
there's
sometimes you just want it to burn a little bit.
yeah, there's a culture to like, especially when it comes to like neat spirits, serving
Yeah.
them and the
Yeah.
correct ways to enjoy them.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah, how do
Yeah.
you just do you how do you drink your
I
whiskey?
usually drink my whiskeys neat. Usually Natty gave me this glass, so I'm using this at my desk. That sounds like I'm always drinking at my desk, which is not true, but sometimes, especially while streaming and stuff like that, I just have this glass.
Because
But
you see
other than
people
that,
like drops of room temp or
yeah,
warm water and shit like that, or
yeah. So I'm very much of the school of if you enjoy this, just do it.
mm,
Who am I to tell you that what you're doing is wrong? If you take the most expensive 44-year-old Talisker that has just been released for 3,700 pounds, I read yesterday,
okay.
uh, which is, it's a fair amount of money, and you just bought a bottle of that, and you just instantly dunk it in your Coke. If that's your stuff, who am I? Like, you bought it. It's your stuff. Go
That
wild.
seems like at that
I,
point,
I I
what's
might
the
get a
point?
little
You know?
upset. I
Yeah,
might get a little upset. I'll be like, "Yo, can I have a taste?" Nope, it's all gone now. It's all in this bottle of Coke, and I'll fucking drink your Coke.
I took the whole
But
bottle and I decanted it into a 5 liters of Coke, and this is
yeah,
how you have to enjoy
yeah,
it now.
I'll cry a little bit. But it's your bottle. You bought it. If you want to drink ice in your whiskey, sure. If you prefer that over anything else, I feel like you have to know what happens if you do stuff like that. So, ice obviously melts, and therefore it dilutes your whiskey a little bit, but it also makes it cooler. And cooling any drink will also make it taste less. Uh, but if that's something you enjoy, you do you. If you enjoy whiskey with Sprite, if you enjoy whiskey with cola, whatever,
So
you
you're
do
not
you.
a whiskey rocks kind of guy?
I do have whiskey stones
Yeah.
indeed that are in my freezy in
In the
my freezer,
freezy?
Yeezy in the freezy. um, they're in there, and I've used them on a very warm day where I'm like, I really want a glass of scotch, but I'm sweating just looking at it. I might put that in, but I don't really care.
Have you
Um,
ever fucked around with like the really clear ice, like the spheres or the big
no,
cubes?
I do have big cubes and I do have spheres and I use them for my cocktails. And I put them in whiskey as well,
I get this shit on my
because yes,
YouTube shorts, fucking like recommended all the time, is shit about big ice cubes and stuff because it's so
yeah,
clear, and like dudes
it
cutting
it
out
doesn't it
you can
doesn't matter.
order cubes of ice now.
Yeah,
Like you can
yeah,
buy to be
yeah,
shipped cubes
yeah,
of ice, and they
yeah.
aren't cheap either. Like $10 a
No,
cube or some shit.
yeah, because it takes a lot of energy to make them keep cool and get to your place.
The I think the specific thing is how clear it is, right? People
Yeah,
love because you can't just
yeah.
get super clear ice cubes in an ice
Mm.
cube tray in your
And that
freezer.
it really it will not matter for your drink.
No,
It
it's
will
all gonna
not.
make it cold. But
So yeah, if that's something you enjoy, I have what we in the whiskey world call an infinity bottle,
oh,
which is a lot of fun. I have this one bottle that I bought empty, and every time I almost clear out a bottle, kill a bottle, the last bit I will throw into that new bottle in my infinite whiskey, and therefore it will be a mix of all kinds of
oh
whiskeys.
God.
Now, take note, I do not do that with the smoky ones because that will take over all the taste. But every whiskey that I have that's not smoked, um, and I have a little bit of it left, just pour it into that,
Do you have the bottle to
and then
hand? Can we see it?
you can see it. Like, give me 4 seconds.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. Gonna get a look at the what would you the amalgam the amalgam infinity whiskey bottle. Anyone listening to the audio only, I'll be sure to get a picture of this and put it on Instagram for when the when the podcast releases. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you want to check out my Instagram for that. But oh, here we go.
I thought it was somewhere else.
It's
This
just
is the
so
one.
it's just I guess a
Yeah.
square decanter that you're just slowly filling up with trickles at a time of various whiskeys.
Yeah, basically. And every once in a while, I just pour one out and see how it tastes.
How
I
it's
might
coming
just
along.
grab one after this one. That I might.
Do you
It's
know? So basically, you say when you get to the last dregs of a bottle, pretty much that
yeah,
goes into the. Do you
yeah.
know
So I
like
don't
how many
know
different kinds
exactly.
roughly?
I think there's about 12 different bottles in there right now.
And
Some of
that's
them are.
everything from like bourbon to
It's pretty
scotch to
much
whatever.
only scotch because
Okay,
that's
okay.
just
So you
the
drink
thing I drink
most regularly,
most. Yeah, and all my bourbon goes into cocktails basically.
right?
Um, yeah, and I've never had Canadian whiskey in here. Um, I've had it, but not at home. I've had. Did I have other Japanese? Yeah, there might be one bottle of Japanese whiskey in here.
Just all on its
Uh,
lonesome.
yeah, just one Japanese fella in between the Scots. I don't think he'll understand what's going on, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I've never even heard of that practice. See, when this makes me want to try whiskey, but I know that I'll hate it. Like I'm not really a spirits man at all. I mean,
You definitely have to go slow. When I do the whiskey tastings, usually they get booked for like a stag party or some shit. And then usually, the stag is a huge fan of whiskeys, but all his friends are like, yeah, I guess I'll enjoy it.
mm,
And I take him through 6 different whiskeys. And eventually, a lot of them will be like, okay, this might not be as bad as I thought it was. There's still the basic whiskeys that get poured out a lot in cafes and bars. They're just not great.
teachers.
Uh, I mean, a lot of people associate whiskey with the first time they drank whiskey, and a lot of times that's Johnny Walker Red Label. And I can tell you, I do not like to drink nail polish remover
Yeah,
myself.
I feel like
That's
when you get to like cheap, like first time drinking a spirit, like 16, 17 at some fucking house party or
yeah,
some shit, and someone got the cheapest one. Chekhov vodka is the one that sticks with me. That's
yeah.
a really cheap vodka
That's
that
something that people will have, and it's not great.
yeah.
It's very bad. And why would you then start buying a more expensive bottle? Honestly, I for there's like two or three exceptions that I make because they're my house whiskeys and I have them in my house for someone that might think they enjoy whiskey but don't really enjoy whiskey. Other than that, I wouldn't buy a bottle for myself under $50.
So, I mean, we already talked about the sign of quality, I guess, with the escape rooms with the price. But like,
Yeah.
do you know anything about the
There
process that really drives up the costs, other than say,
yes.
I guess, scarcity and time because you've got to
Yeah.
age this stuff. But like,
Uh
what in the process
obviously
really
yeah. Well,
contributes?
it's mostly that. Imagine you have a product. Scottish whiskey has to be stored and aged for 3 years and 1 day. The 1 day is for leap years. Um, so that's the minimum amount. Now, a lot of whiskeys, higher quality whiskeys, will be at least 10 to 12 years old. Imagine you have a product that you want to sell, but you have to have it for 10 years first. You
Yeah,
have
but
to
you'll
store it
have,
somewhere.
the years prior, like you'll have it coming out
Do
year
you,
after
though?
year.
Yeah, eventually, after 10 years.
But I assume because I've seen this. I can't remember if it was like Lafroig whiskey or something
Hmm.
like that. But they have, they'll have the 10 year, and then they'll have like the 20 year and shit like
Yeah,
that, where they've got like,
they don't start with that usually, and usually these companies are fairly old. Can I spot a year on this? No. Um, they're usually fairly old because the whiskey culture is very rich and old in all around the world, basically. So these companies usually have a rich and vast history. Oh, it is on 1789, right here on the bottle. I didn't catch it.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh, but
1798 actually
oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah,
established.
blah. And they say that, but that might not be true. Um, so yeah, they've been busy for a while, but still to have a product and to have it stored somewhere for 10 years like this bottle has, that does take up a lot of space. Space that you have to pay for,
Space
the
that you
wood
have
that
to
you have.
pay for those 10 years before you can actually make any money off the thing that
Yeah,
you're storing in there. Yeah.
yeah. So that definitely drives up the price. The rest of producing whiskey isn't that super expensive. Whiskey is ingredients wise very simple. There is your grains, your barley, whatever. Uh, that's and then yeah, you have to work with that. You have to have your copper pots to distill in.
Get your mash and all that shit,
Yeah,
however
and
that
that's
works.
yeah, but that's not the wildest stuff. But then it has to be stored for a while,
Yeah.
long while, and that's usually what drives up the price. And then there's the seal of quality, and that will always make stuff more expensive. Doesn't need to be, but it happens.
What's the what oldest spirit you've consumed? Couldn't figure out whether it would be drunk or drank, so we'll just go with consumed.
I have a bottle of 33-year-old whiskey over here.
Yeah.
Um,
Golden
and I
number, by the way. Just putting that out there.
right?
Great choice.
Yeah. And I think I've had a port that was about 50 years old or some shit. And
Port's a choice.
yeah, it's not even my favorite drink.
I
But
like
that
port.
was
I tend to
yeah,
drink it around Christmas
sure.
time.
It was expensive and stuff like that. But I think I've tasted a 50-year-old whiskey once. I've tasted it and it was not great. Uh, yeah. Imagine something resting inside wood for 50 years. Do I need to tell you how this is going to taste, or do you just assume splinters? Because that's true.
Tastes like wood.
Yeah.
Wood and
Like wood
corn or
would.
whatever. Wood and grain.
Yeah. And sorry, but that was what that was. Uh, it had all kinds of fun things going in there, but there was so much wood.
I
And that
think
just,
even yeah. I kind of I don't know. I don't see the value of aging something for that long, but clearly people
no.
do, right? I mean,
Yeah, marketing.
50
and
years? Like the guy who put that in the barrels probably was dead by the time it even came around to being
yeah,
drunk or drank
yeah,
or consumed.
possibly.
Do you know any whiskey makers?
Personally, no,
Yeah. No. Okay.
no,
Well, it's just
no.
worth a shot. All right. So moving from Scotland and Ireland and all that to Old Blighty, because we love gin here in England.
Mm,
You do gin tastings as well.
yes.
Aside from the UK or aside from England specifically, who makes the best gin? I'm not a gin man, by the way. I think it tastes horrible. I think it tastes just odd.
I'm not a super huge gin nerd either. I just know my spirits, and therefore it's easy for me to talk about them.
Mm.
Uh, and here's my trick during these tastings. I just go like, "Hey, sniff, tip. What do you taste? You're right." Uh, that's all.
Is that
It's
because it's
very
subjective or
yeah,
like yeah?
yeah, yeah. That there's no wrong answers.
Is it
Uh,
gin's juniper berries, right? Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The main ingredient or the main taste that you would have to find for it to be legally called gin would be juniper berries.
Well, I'm
And
gonna go on the record right now and say the taste of juniper berries sucks. So
it's not great. It's not great. I'm not a huge fan of straight gin either. Um, it's decent. I've had it. I've enjoyed it, but I'd rather mix it. It works great in all kinds of cocktails and your gin and tonic,
yeah, the
obviously.
thing that blows my mind about gin and tonic is it somehow stops it tasting like gin altogether to me. It's like a whole different
It
flavor.
doesn't taste like gin, and it doesn't taste like tonic either.
Exactly.
It's great.
It tastes good somehow because both
Yeah,
of those things taste
it's
terrible.
and you get so fucking wasted on that stuff.
Yeah.
It's fairly heavy. It's definitely something you drink on a warm day. Yeah, you go hard on a gin and tonic. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, um, what who makes the best gin? My favorite gin is Broker's Gin, which is a London dry gin. Uh,
Of course.
So there you have it. The name London Gin, London Dry Gin, isn't specifically based in London anymore. Doesn't matter. That's just a name. Um, for other products, there is a law about that. Here's not the
I guess it's
case.
something to do with how it's made. If it's a London dry
Yeah,
gin specifically, it's the
yeah,
process.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that gin because it's fairly neutral. There's not a whole lot of weird things going on. It's just good, and it works in a lot of cocktails. And if I want, I will always add something to my gin. So if there's something already in there, I can't take it out.
Yeah.
So that's why I really like that one. It's also fairly cheap. It works great in cocktails. And if I make a gin and tonic, I will usually myself. I would put a dried orange in there, probably, or an orange if I don't have any dried oranges. Cucumber works. Rose buds, whatever work. All kinds of things can be thrown into a gin and tonic. Everything you like. So therefore, I really enjoy a fairly neutral gin uh, to work with.
What
There's
makes and we talked about this before the podcast, but for anyone listening or watching who might not know, there is a Dutch drink called Jenever,
yeah,
right? Now I tried it while I was over there, and to me it tasted just like gin.
yeah,
Is
it's
what
fairly
makes Jenever
close.
what it is, right? Because it is a juniper berry l-
Yeah,
liqueur, whatever,
yeah.
spirit.
Um, I think there's a. I'm not even super sure on this.
Hmm.
I'm bluffing my way through right now, so don't fact check this. I think it's mostly the sugar content.
Right.
That's the difference. So what happened back in the day, uh, way back, the British drank a lot of brandy, but eventually turns out the British and the French don't always make the best of friends. Something
Who
with
would
a
have known?
war. Yeah, I don't know. But before that, a lot of brandy was drunk, consumed, drinketh.
Mm.
But eventually, British government was like, "Yeah, no, we're at war, dude. We're not drinking any brandy anymore because that's a French product." Don't do that.
Is brandy distilled wine?
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
we can't make wine in the UK because we can't grow grapes. So I guess that makes sense
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have our own
Yeah.
brandy.
Yeah. And they were like, okay, but what the frick is going on with these Dutch idiots just running straight into the battlefield? The Dutch courage. People have heard about this. Dutch courage is
Mm.
basically just the Dutch soldiers straight up running into the battlefield, caring about nothing, and just going forward, completely drunk on Genever, as we call it. And they were like, okay, maybe we should try that then. So they started importing Genever and slightly changed the recipe. Not even that much. They changed it a little bit, sugar contents and some other things. And they called it gin. And that's what gin is.
That makes sense. See, yeah, no. When you when you said Geneva, it didn't click right away. But I guess the name probably comes from that. But I've
Yeah.
only ever heard it from Dutch people, so I've only ever heard it
Yeah.
Geneva. So like the connection wasn't even
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
the rest of the world calls it Genever because
yeah.
they can't say Genever. Uh, but yeah, that's what it is, and that's what
The
it came from. And
grandpappy
then
of gin,
yeah,
and
and then eventually what
not good.
happened is during the First World War and the British, the UK, whatever, were fairly active in India, and that brought all kinds of problems with it, along which the sun, which British don't have, and also malaria, which the British don't have. Uh,
Oh my god, where is this going?
yeah, no, these were things that the English soldiers had to protect themselves from. So they drank a lot of tonic because in tonic there's this, I lost the name, but one of these ingredients or one of the things in tonic protects you from both heat strokes and malaria. It recently got taken off the World Health List as an official medicine for malaria. Uh, so
I
a
was
lot
about
of
to say
tonic.
water, but I guess I guess it's something else in that case.
No, it's not water. It's tannins. I don't know. No, not tannins. That's wine. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's fairly present in tonic. So a lot of tonic was being drank. But as we just talked about, tonic itself is not great. But if you mix it with
No, it's
gin,
like kind of bitter in a weird way,
it's
right?
very
Like
bitter.
it's
Yeah, it's
it's
very
really
bitter.
odd.
Even though it's still a super sugary drink, so it's both very sweet but also bitter. The
Mm.
bittersweet taste of tonic, I guess. Um, so yeah, they started mixing that with their favorite drink, gin, and suddenly the gin and tonic was big.
And you end up
And
with
then
gin brands like Bombay Sapphire, which I guess has
yeah,
some Indian roots, right? Like,
which is something. Yep,
yeah,
yep.
there you go. It's a little bit of gin history.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know. We've been here for an hour and 40 minutes. I didn't even realize. I thought it had only been actually 40 minutes, but it's been an hour and 40. So I feel
Yeah,
like as far as questions I have, I'm satisfied. So
I'm never satisfied. Ask me everything.
yeah, what's the moon made of? No, we did that last episode.
Cheese.
No, that's American caves,
I've
right? You
no
already got it mixed up.
no. I've seen Wallace and Gromit, and I'm fairly sure that the whole moon is made out of cheese. Any Wallace and Gromit fans?
Oh,
Chat?
I
No.
okay. I loved
Love
Wallace and
Wallace.
Gromit as a kid, and now there's this meme format going around now on like TikTok and stuff of just this clip of Wallace going, "Well, that went about as well as could be expected, eh, Gromit?" And it's so fucking funny to me. I don't know what it is, but he's just crunching on his toast and he's just so deadpan and he looks over at Gromit and Gromit just looks down from his newspaper like, what the fuck, man? And then you can throw any caption on that shit, whether it's like, war memes or anything. Just that went about as well as could be expected, eh? It's just so stupid.
Dude, I love that stuff.
New
I remember
appreciation for it.
there was the Curse of the Were Rabbit, I think the
Yeah.
movie's called, which was a
Yeah.
great movie, and I remember seeing that in the cinemas as well. And there, there's this scene where Wallace is stripped out of his clothing and he just grabs this cardboard box and puts it over his junk. And on that box, you can read the text contains nuts.
Oh
And I
my
just
god.
fucking lost it right there. It was just
Wallace and Gromit's a
hilarious.
national treasure here, so like
I bet.
there's all kind. I remember the all kinds of documentation about the making of the movie and everything like that. And you see the sets and all of the little claymation people.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I love that.
All right.
I
Well,
love
on
that.
that note, I'm gonna say thank you so much for coming on.
No, hang on. There's
Okay.
one more thing I need to do because I just poured myself a little bit of my
Oh.
infinite whiskey. I'm
Okay.
gonna get some live tasting notes. It doesn't smell great.
Of at least 12 different whiskeys combined.
There's a lot of grain. I'm gonna taste
Who
it.
would have guessed? A
Oh,
lot of grain.
I do smell some apples.
He's going for the sip. He's thinking
Oh,
about it. Oh.
oh, some peach coming up, and some. There's a little. There shouldn't be smoke in there, but there's a little hint of smoke. I think that might be just the heavier alcohol coming in.
Are you using the same
Um,
glass?
yeah, but I drank everything from the other one. Uh, I know what's going on. There's something weird in here. It's like dried apricots, maybe.
I
It's
fucking hate
fun.
apricots.
It's fun. A lot of fun. Yeah,
All right.
it's not my favorite whiskey, but hey, I
The
made this.
Reinout Be Subtle Uppbeat Prime Home Brand Infinite Whiskey.
Yeah, don't buy this.
Would it be
It's not
illegal to like bottle that shit up and
yeah,
sell it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On that note, thanks for coming on. I mean, I feel like I've wanted to have you on for. We had you on the old podcast like twice at least, and I've wanted to have you on since the inception of this. So, it's been great. It's been great talking to you. Learned a lot about
Thank
escape rooms. Learned a
you.
lot about alcohol. So yeah.
Alcohol. Yeah. Didn't think we were gonna talk about alcohol that much, but hey, I
Well,
guess that's me.
especially you just said you were fresh off teaching mixology and shit like that. It seemed like
Yeah,
a good note,
that's
and I know how much you freaking love your whiskey, and there's literally a bottle in the back there. So
yeah,
figured we'd get into that as
that's
well.
the it's super expensive. Chat can't see, but
No,
that's the
I might be able to move it over. Let's see.
21
Oh
year
god, is this gonna
old.
be nope.
That's
Never
what.
mind.
No, okay. No,
I could uncrop maybe, but anyway,
doesn't matter.
I'm just gonna say quickly, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. And again, support the podcast on Patreon and follow Be Subtle everywhere. Be.subtle on Instagram and Be Subtle Prime on Twitter. The most kicks I get out of your Instagram is all the live events, all the live music you've been going to lately. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna go to Converge yesterday. I couldn't.
yeah. So you're trying to get rid of
Uh,
the tickets. Like, hey, anyone
yeah,
want these? I can't go.
I'm still very upset because this was a major show, and I'm
Yeah.
very upset that I had to miss it. But mental health had to take a day.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm upset, but I'm going to shows again, and I can't wait to be on stage myself as well.
All right. Well, um, obviously check out Be Subtle because the new album's coming sometime in the next 10 years, hopefully.
Sometime. I
All
hope
right.
so. I fucking hope so.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for listening. I will see you next time.
Bye bye.